Good morning, college baseball fans. What an incredible week that we've had in college baseball. We kind of, looked at the slate last week and thought, you know what, we could be better. It's better this week. It's an absolutely loaded. I was just flipping through ESPN Plus and thinking, how do I pick which game to watch? And then you know what, 12 ranked teams lost last night. Some people do cocaine, others do college baseball. Mark, I assume you're in Utah to watch your Oregon State Beavers lose to the Utes.
No, I didn't make that trip, but it's a weird thing having 10 a.m. college baseball for us. That's not a Pac-12 thing. They play in a minor league stadium down there, so they have to go opposite of them. So it's 10 a.m. today, 10 a.m. yesterday, and then 6 p.m. on Sunday night, which is a really weird thing for Pac-12. So we'll see how that goes. But that was a rough one.
Yeah. So is that 10 a.m. Mountain Time or 10 a.m. Pacific Time?
10 a.m. Pacific Time, so 11 a.m. Mountain Time.
It's still pretty bad.
Yeah, so it'll be 7 p.m. for that night game, which is a tough one because then they got to travel back home and they play Oregon on Tuesday at Oregon.
Here yesterday in Nebraska, we have a holiday called Arbor Day, and I got the day off for that, so it was great. I was just able to watch breakfast with the Pac-12. Or maybe lunch with
breakfast with the Conference of Champions. I love it.
No.
Yep.
They're back. The Pac-12 is back in baseball. We've been talking about it.
They are back.
The parody. The parody is back with Stanford losing.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Cooper Jerpy had a perfect game through 6. Then he got let down by the defense, giving up only 3 hits total in the game and losing 2-1 like that. Rough go of it.
Yeah, I think Cooper is kind of turning into the Jacob deGrom of college baseball. He's never getting the wins that he should, and then they find a way to lose the game whenever he's going.
His ERA in winning games is 2.08, and that was his first loss last night, and it's 2.14. So it's like, man, you just feel for the guy. I don't know how else to go about it.
Mm-hmm. Any other games catch your guys' attention the past couple days?
I was at the Oklahoma State-Texas game last night, so it was almost like the complete opposite of that Oregon State game. It was back and forth the whole time, and it was really kind of my introduction to Oklahoma State because I feel like they're just one of those teams almost like Gonzaga where they're just, it's like, oh, yeah, they won this week, move them up. And I really hadn't get to watch them that much. My kind of introduction to them was the Oral Roberts game last week, so really not a very great introduction at all. So it was kind of cool to see, Oklahoma State get some of the love that they deserve because they really did bang the ball around the yard. And then the flip side of that is every single week it feels like I'm the only one that's going with.
We lose Jake there? Oh, Jake, looks like you're back. You cut out there for a second. Maybe not.
Maybe so.
But that Oklahoma State game was crazy last night. It is kind of weird to watch Oklahoma State play. Some days they're just hitting around the yard, and then other days it's kind of like this is an average team. But yesterday they were making great contact, and that's kind of when I watch teams, the differentiating factor between good and great is how hard you just hit the ball, even if you're getting out. And Oklahoma State was hitting the ball really hard last night, which you have to do at Dish Falk Field with that big outfield. And a couple of guys went back to back. It was great to see. And then I did pick Oklahoma State in this week's pick'em, so I was even happier about that.
So my question is, though, for Big 12, is being an average Big 12 team, is that going to make them good in the tournament, or are they going to be bad teams in the tournament? Is the Big 12 is it down this year and they're just beating each other up? Or I can't figure it out because I look at those teams, Oklahoma State, Texas, TCU, and I don't see a team that I really think I love. And it's just not great. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand it.
It is a very weird league. TCU is winning it right now by multiple games, and TCU got shut out by Florida State last night. Yeah. And I just don't know what's going on with that with the Big 12. I think TCU is kind of fake. They always have been kind of fraudulent. They kind of remind me of UCLA, where they're kind of sticking around. But do we really think they're going to be playing in Omaha? I don't know. But when I think middle of the road, maybe Texas Tech is kind of upper middle of the road in the Big 12. And we know they're a good team. They've got some good players, but the league is just so weird. They're all hovering around 500 in conference play. I don't get it.
Nobody's. And they all feel bad on the road. They all feel like they struggle so much, so mightily when they go on the road for these games. But they play fine at home. they have good home records, but then they go anywhere else and they're like, oh, we don't know how to play. We figured out how to play baseball. What happened?
But with that Big 12, I think Ivan Melendez might win the Golden Spikes. I think he's kind of taken that lead. Last week he had 4 homers, and then he added one last night. Every time he swings the bat, it's like, you have to tune in. It's kind of like when Mike Trout or Shohei Ohtani were in their peak. It's getting near that where, Ivan Melendez is going to hit a homer today. I wonder if it's just a bat.
Yeah, and I've had him on my top 3 from the beginning of the year. Don't know how he wasn't on people's list early. Trey Limpson is another one that I think he's been tearing the cover off the ball for Tennessee. The problem is that whole Tennessee lineup is now hitting. So it's like, how do you differentiate between what he's doing and the rest of that lineup's doing? But he is kind of the old man of the ball club there. He is the kind of leader there. I think he can take Tennessee as far as they're going to go. And that might be, those two are right up there for what it can be. So I'm hoping that I think that it's between those two. And then I feel pretty confident in my 3 picks with him and Cooper Jerpy. But Jerpy getting his first loss last night, that was tough.
Yeah. And, Lipscomb added another homer last night, but then so did everybody in that.
That's what, yeah. I mean, it was lost in that 17. Yep. That Auburn was so happy 4-2. And then you turn around and you're like, oh, now it's 9-4. Oh, now it's 17-4. It's like, what happened there? That was insane. They just playing like it was home run derby. It got a little out of control.
Yeah, I stepped away from the TV for a second, and then I came back, and Tennessee had the lead. Okay, that's Tennessee. And then all of a sudden, they're up 17-4. Okay.
Yeah, Tennessee took the lead. I'm like, I'm going to switch over to watch the Pac-12, and then I go back and look at the score. I'm like, what? How'd that happen? That was insane. But yeah, like you said, I mean, 12 teams go out there and lose that are ranked last night. I mean, and Oregon State lost, and Arkansas lost, Southern Miss lost, Miami lost. So really 4 of some teams' top 5 people lost last night. It's kind of an interesting stat there. We've seen it all year. The parity in college baseball is high, but I don't think I've seen it this high in a long time, this late in the season, where, top 5 teams are losing to unranked opponents.
Yeah, the more I look at those projected fields that have been coming out from, various other outlets, we need to make one is what we need to do. But when I look at them and I look and I try and say, if this was the real bracket, here's who'd be coming to Omaha, it's definitely the hardest it's ever been.
Yeah.
You see a lot of these 2 seeds who are better than the average 2 seeds, and a lot of 1 seeds who are maybe a little worse than the usual 1 seeds. A lot of susceptibility.
Yeah. And when you go through conference by conference, which we're going to do later, it's crazy to look at the stats and you're like, you think that these teams that are top 5 are so much better than the rest of their teams in their conference? They're not. They're even with those teams. They're right above them. It's crazy. The only team that's really put themselves above and away the best is Tennessee. Tennessee has looked like the number 1 team in the nation. They've looked like that Arkansas team that was number 1 in the nation. They looked like that Oregon State team that was number 1 in the nation, going out there, winning every week, beating teams up, winning the games they have to win. They'll stumble a little bit, but, number 1 teams tend to not do well here come tournament time.
Yeah, you have to wonder if there's ever going to be a time where Tennessee does slump like everybody else has in the country. You thought it was going to be when they lost those 2 games to Tennessee Tech with the Woodbats and then Alabama.
Yeah.
Then they looked like Tennessee again the rest of the weekend, and then they turned that into a sweep of Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, and that Florida team's been hurting since Hunter Barco went down. I mean, that's I don't know if they can turn that ship now.
Jake, how about the turning the ship of your Wi-Fi or whatever you have going on?
Yeah, I was gonna say I went to the hardwire, so hopefully I stay on this time. Alex had some phone overheating issues, but I don't know. They showed us that when I was watching the Tennessee game last night. I was listening to some music just because the game really wasn't that interesting there at the end, and they brought up 2013 Vandy and 2000 South Carolina as 2 teams that they were kind of chasing, and neither of them even made it to Omaha, let alone won. So I think in the back of my mind, Tennessee's a cursed team across all sports, it seems like, when they get into bowl games and tournament time. So it wouldn't surprise me to even see them lose in a regional. And I know that's really crazy to say, other than it's just Tennessee, because they have been so good, and there's all this precedent of the number 1 seed always losing. And then y'all were mentioning too that there 2s kind of look like 1s and 1s look like 2s. I think there's even some 3s that look like 2s, because some of those projections, and I mean, I know I'm very high on Campbell, but there are 4 that almost in some years they would be a 3 just with how deep it is. And it'll be really interesting to see kind of who gets, the easy draws, the Coppin States, the Maine, stuff like that. And then who has to go in and play some of these tougher mid-major teams. And, the flip side of that too is Southern Miss, I feel like they're going to kind of punish them being a mid-major, where they're going to put them with, a 2 that should be a 1 in most years, or a 3 that should be a 2. So that'll be the really interesting thing to see coming down the stretch, is who kind of gets that tough regional. And then the other side too is, I know last year we had South Florida. It really wouldn't surprise me at all to see somebody that's, kind of out on the radar, out in the open, make a run at one of these tournaments and get hot at the right time. Because, no one really had South Florida on their list last year, and they made it to a super regional.
Yep. Absolutely. I agree. I think that this is the first year in a long time where it's going to be important to be a top 4 seed, because you're going to want to you're going to hope that you get the worst 4 seeds in the nation, because there's some good 4s, 3s out there. You don't want them in your conference, especially you don't want them in your regional at all.
No, and even Grambling, they had a pitcher throw a no-hitter earlier in the year, and that's going to be a tough Friday starter to try and get through. And, different coaches have different philosophies, but, when you're facing a front line, almost D1 level starter, you can't just mail it in and throw your 1 or 2. So that'll be really interesting to see kind of how they manage the bullpen with some of these, mid-major teams.
Yep.
Alex, welcome back. How is the phone in lovely Baton Rouge?
Oh, we're doing all right, man. I'm out here right in front of Alex Box Stadium. We had a great time last night at the game. Great crowd. It was a little small at the beginning, but they trickled in. They filled out the box quite nicely. And, man, the ball was just jumping out of the yard. 4 home runs in the game, 3 by the Tigers. And should be another great one tonight. We got Garth Brooks playing in the football stadium in Tiger Stadium tonight. So we got people out here tailgating already for the concert / the baseball game. So I think, should be a lot of fun this weekend, and then with Jonathan Cannon on the mound for Georgia, that'll be fun to watch. He's an electric pitcher. He pitched 5 perfect innings coming off his injury last week, 5 perfect innings against Alabama on a limited pitch count. So we'll see what he does against this lineup. LSU this year has not fared well against frontline starters. You look at, Hunter Barco kept him down at Florida. So did the Oklahoma ace. I can't remember his name right now. And at Texas
Detmer too. Yeah, Detmer earlier.
Detmer, yeah, A&M, yeah. So LSU's had trouble with the frontline pitchers. They feasted on kind of the 2 and 3 guys. So we'll see what happens tonight.
Good news is that he should be on another limited pitch count. I don't see him going much more than 5 or 6 innings today. So that should be a good thing for you guys, because you guys seem to eat a bullpen down there in LSU.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they probably, after he threw 66 pitches last week.
Yeah, I still think he's limited to under 75, but I don't know. That's what my feeling is, and that's what I think that they're going to do with him, because they need him come tournament time. I don't think you push that arm right now, even against LSU. You just don't do it.
Yeah, and they're pretty comfortable in Hoover too. And I know that they do want to host a regional, but not at the expense of one of your top arms.
Yeah.
Well, they're sitting. They've got a top 5 RPI right now. They're pretty much a lock at this point to host a regional. And then even if they lose the series to LSU, they've still got a really good shot at being a top 8 seed.
Yeah.
And
LSU's got a chance too to host. So if you lose to another host team, it's not the end of your day, especially when you're talking about in conference at SEC play. Yeah, it's not the end of the day. I think that you just reserve the arm. 75 pitches is still a lot, but I don't see him going past 5 or 6 today.
You wouldn't want to turn him into a Kevin Abel where his arm is made of chicken noodle soup.
Yeah.
At
least they did that to Kevin Abel in the College World Series.
Yep. 2 wins in the championship series. That is, I think it was worth it.
Yep. Yeah, we'll take it every time.
I'm sure you will.
Kevin.
Yeah. Before we move on to the breakdown of each conference, who we think is going to win, I just want to give a shout out to Ryan Ramsey with Maryland throwing a perfect game last night. 10 strikeouts, the 34th perfect game in college baseball history, only the 20th since they switched to 9-inning games. Electric showing. We don't talk about Maryland enough because, you think Big Ten and you think, mid-major in all sports, but especially in baseball. And, you look at that, they got 2 frontline starters. Jason Savacool is very good. They have him going on Sundays. I'm not going to be surprised if Maryland is playing in a super regional.
Yeah, that's a really tough 2 seed because a lot of knowledge is not about them. You don't really go out and find Maryland baseball. You're not going out there and searching out their games. But then they pop up in your score and you're like, oh, wow, that's cool. And then, perfect game last night. It's like, that's impressive. But their conference is so weak. So I don't know if their stats are a little ballooned for what it could be versus good teams because, man, the Big Ten is just awful at baseball. They're just so bad at baseball this year. It's embarrassing.
I know, and then Rutgers is right there with them too. I think Rutgers is actually first in the conference. I'm not really sure how tiebreakers work in the Big Ten just because I really don't follow it, but it'll be really interesting because outside of Rutgers and Maryland, and I really don't know anything about Rutgers if I'm being honest, but the Big Ten is just so bad. They're so undeep.
Knowing how soft the Big Ten is, they'll probably just give trophies to everybody. You all win the conference.
Yeah, they'll have a new illness come out.
The Big Ten tournament will be canceled, and it'll just give Ohio State the automatic bid.
No, are you going to the Big Ten tournament in Omaha?
Yeah, I'll probably check out a few games, but like I was telling our guy Doug the other day, it feels like a regular season baseball game between 2 teams you don't care about every time you're in there. But if Nebraska's in there, they fill the lower bowl. I'll give them that. But if it's like Maryland, Minnesota, it's a pick your seat kind of night.
What happened to Nebraska? They were kind of a preseason top 25 on a couple people's radars, and I don't even think they're above 500 at this point.
Yeah, I think people kind of undervalued how much they actually lost, and it just kind of like, oh, they almost made it, they'll be fine. But Spencer Schwellenbach, among others, but yeah, they're kind of missing kind of the same thing with Mississippi State, but just more of a dramatic fall off.
Yeah, I think people were just looking. They're like, we have to pick somebody in the Big Ten, so why not the team that we know of? Why not Nebraska? Because they were good last year. Well, yeah, but they lost a lot of talent, and then when you don't recover that talent like that, not in 1 year.
Yeah, especially being a Big Ten school, and I think being under 500 in the SEC is a completely different piece than being under 500 in the Big Ten. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of how they rebound next year, because I think their season is kind of done. I mean, they could do South Florida, like I mentioned earlier, and get hot at the right time, but usually when you're under 500, that doesn't happen a lot.
Jake, do you try and keep your eyes on the Nebraska baseball program for when A&M inevitably fires Schlossnagel too soon and then needs a new head coach?
He's not on our radar. There's been a few lists. That's why I like all these obscure mid-major teams. I'm really just scouting for our next coach. I do keep an eye on them, though, because I'm a Penn State's #1 fan. So rocking some Penn State stuff.
Add it to the 10 list of teams. I'm going to be fired up when all of your teams are in Omaha, every single one.
Yeah, and then next week we're going to do an Amazon gift card giveaway. So if you can guess the college that I pick, we'll give you an Amazon gift card for those watching.
Wow.
Love it.
I highly doubt anybody will ever be able to guess.
No, I don't think so either. Mark might be able to guess, so that might be a little hint there.
Heyo. Just on another tangent of that too, I'm wearing a Cal Poly Go Stangs hat. I lost a bet to one of our own, Daniel Faulkner, and I said that I would buy a hat and wear it on the air and apologize to Brooks Lee and the Cal Poly baseball team. You are not a bad team. I still don't think you're a good team. I still don't think you're making the tournament, but you might make the tournament, but I'm not going to buy in. I'm just paying off my bet here.
You're a jinx. They lost last night.
I know. I was watching that all the way to the end too. I was like, okay, let's go.
I made a similar deal with Cal Poly, but they did not hold their end of the bargain, so I will not say anything about their poverty program. With poverty programs come conference championship predictions. Breaking down each conference. Which conference you guys want to start with?
ACC. Let's just go alphabetical.
All right.
I'll go first. I got this. So I was really torn between 2 teams. I know I was down on Virginia Tech early in the season. I had them right there. My problem is that they didn't get those 2 extra games against Notre Dame because Notre Dame chickened out. And that's 2 more wins they could have had, and it's going to hurt them in their overall amount of games they get to play in the ACC because they only play Louisville and Duke left, and I think that those are winnable series for them. I'm going Miami. I think Miami's in the driver's seat. I think that they're the team that can do this. They have Florida State, who's a tough series, I think, for them. But then they play Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's garbage. So I think that they can win this out. They have, a game lead in the division or a game and a half lead in the division. I think that they can do this. They lost last night to Georgia Tech. I still think Miami is the class of the ACC this year. As much as people are down on them, I still think that they're the team that can pull this one out.
Yeah, I'll go next. Jumping off of that one, I have Notre Dame winning the league because Miami is a bunch of fraudulents. They are, of course, the convicts. I'm excited for the Catholics to take it right to them in a couple weeks. When you look at Notre Dame's schedule, just a little bit easier. You get Boston College and Pitt as well as Miami. Whereas I looked at everybody else's schedule that was kind of in contention. It was kind of like, you have to play a little bit better teams. I think it might have been Miami that might get to play Duke. Might have been Florida State, maybe Virginia. It was somebody.
Virginia Tech plays Duke.
Okay, that was kind of one of those teams where somebody in our Q&A today said they're kind of like South Carolina. So I don't want to count out anything against them, but when I look at teams, it can kind of they've been slept on all year by people like Mark for absolutely no reason. And did they duck out of Virginia Tech? Yeah, they did for good reason because they're going to win the league.
So I actually got some insider information about that series. My friend was actually the one batting when they canceled it. He was saying that there was no way that series was going to get played and that was the worst stadium he's ever been to in his college career. And he played at some stinkers playing in the Ivy League. So I don't know if I want to say it was the Notre Dame one that did it. I think it's on the ACC for not trying to reschedule it. I think that's on them. I think they could have got it in, maybe if they worked around their schedule and maybe got rid of some of those midweeks, but it's too late now. I would say the team that I think is probably going to be, I'll go tournament just because I know with like Virginia Tech's tiebreakers and everything, I think Virginia Tech's got to be the favorite coming out of the ACC. I mean, they have two frontline starters that really just shove it, and they have hitters up and down the lineup that can get hot at any time. I've been on the Virginia Tech train for a long, long time. I'm a big hammer guy. I got some glove hammers around here somewhere. But Virginia Tech, I think, is probably going to be my favorite coming out of the ACC.
Alex, you got an
Alex,
ACC?
you frozen?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Mark here on Miami coming out of the ACC. I think that they just got something down there that I don't know really how to what it is, but there's just something special about that team. They just win. I mean, I know Noah's a bigger fan of the Catholics over the convicts, but I'm telling you, man, you can't discount those convicts.
And then Mark, we did have a question for you.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I know we had this great conversation about how you met Dylan Davis's dad, and it was cool, and we were having that they're still not good. I'm sorry. I'm just not gonna buy in. I'm just not gonna do it. I have nothing necessarily ill will against them, but they're my West Coast Notre Dame. I'm kind of out on them. So
that's the same colors too.
Yeah, I know. And I'm even wearing the hat. I bought the hat. I supported the team. Yeah. And they have Bill Nye down there too, and I still hate him. So that's tough.
And then we had some comments from Mario come in too. So we'll give a shout out to Mario.
Yeah,
What's up, Mario? Long time, buddy.
We are outstanding, Mario. Almost as outstanding as the ACC is top to bottom. Some would say better than the SEC. Most would say better than the SEC, but we do not want to be murdered, so maybe we won't say it out loud.
I'll say it.
I'll say it as an SEC guy.
Guys who watch college baseball this year, if you think that the SEC is still better than the ACC this year, you're wrong. You're wrong on too many facets. You're just wrong. ACC has a lot more diverse talent. I don't think that they have as much front-end talent as the SEC does this year, but they have a lot more diverse talent. I think overall the conference is better than the SEC. Mostly taking shots at Mississippi State and Ole Miss.
And Missouri, too.
Hey, Ole Miss took one from Arkansas yesterday.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't you guys know Ole Miss is playing a super regional?
Oh,
you gotta curse them now. You gotta say they're gonna lose. You've been too nice to them.
No, I like when Ole Miss is good. It's better for Twitter.
It is. It is. That would be an interesting to see where and if Mississippi State and Ole Miss get in somewhere. Those are teams that could get hot late, but Southern Miss is still the best team in Mississippi. So,
And Virginia's the better baseball state this year too than Mississippi.
Ooh, hot take.
I might have to tweet that one underneath on the Twitter now for hot takes.
All right, I will. Next up, the Big 12, America's conference in football and basketball, but we don't really care in baseball.
Did we actually pick the SEC? I don't think we actually picked the SEC.
We're going in alphabetical order.
Oh, okay, I got you.
We forgot the American Conference if we're going alphabetical, but
we just have to tease the SEC to keep everybody around.
So we're going Big 12 first year. I think as much as I think that it's kind of a crapshoot down the stretch here, I think TCU has the easiest schedule. They only have Oklahoma and Kansas left, and Kansas is kind of the dog that everybody's been kicking this year in that conference. And Oklahoma's got a good Friday night starter. I see it. Yep, in the comments right there. I think Oklahoma's got a good enough Friday night starter to where they could give TCU some trouble on that Friday. But I think TCU wins the other two, so I think they go 5-1 down the stretch, and I think they end up, 17-7 and win the conference.
Yeah, this was another conference where I opened up all the schedules of everybody who I thought could be in there, and the way it just shakes up, TCU is going to win enough games to keep their lead. I thought maybe Oklahoma State, but they got some tough ones a little bit. They're playing Texas right now. That could easily be a 2-1 series. Don't know which way, but you look at these teams, and I think TCU is going to kind of just keep doing what they've been doing, win, but not really that impressive. I don't like TCU at all. I think they're a gross team. I think that they might lose in a regional, but hey, I think they're going to win the Big 12, especially when they aren't even playing in a Big 12 game this week for some reason.
I'm going to go out and say Texas, just because I feel like they have the easiest schedule down the stretch. They play Kansas, like you said, and West Virginia. I do think they come back and win the next two. I just think, they hit the ball too well to lose some of those pitcher games. I do like Oklahoma State, though, is kind of my dark horse because they do get to play Texas Tech at home, and Texas Tech is just a horrible road team. That might even be a sweep. But I think if I'm going to pick if I'm going to be a gambling man, Texas is probably the one I'm going to put just because they have so much talent. We dog on them a lot, but their schedule really sets up for them this year at the end.
Yeah, I'm with Jake. I think Texas comes out of the Big 12 as the winner. The Hispanic Titanic just continues to crush the ball. And yeah, they've had some injuries on their pitching staff, but it's still a really solid pitching staff. And Murphy Staley's been hitting the ball really well. And their lineup's just too deep. And like Jake said, they've got a pretty workable schedule down the stretch. So I think it's gonna be Texas.
Yeah, I think for Texas to win it, they need to win the next two, though, against Oklahoma State. I think that they win those two games, and that's it. And then they're going to have to hope that TCU drops another game later. So the inconsistency of Texas right now makes me steer clear of them, and how easy TCU's schedule really is down the stretch is what gives me the lean there.
I think Braden disagrees with our Texas take.
Our resident OU fan hates Texas. Surprising.
I'd just like to add that in our bold predictions that we did at the beginning of the year, I did say that TCU would win the Big 12. So I am rooting for that to happen, even though I think TCU is not a good baseball team.
They still got the Slosh guys, who's such a good recruiter. So I feel like they're just going to do it on talent alone.
I feel like the Big 12 is a bunch of mediocre teams that are beating each other up. I'd like to see what happens come tournament time, but I don't think that there are that many good teams in the Big 12 this year. I don't think that they're elite. I think Texas might be the best of the teams, their best chance to be an elite team, but Texas Tech, so bad on the road. Oklahoma State, I'm just not sold on them. Yeah, they bang the ball around the yard a little bit, but they have okay pitching, but I don't think they're elite. I think Texas has the best chance to be elite, but TCU wins conference.
Yeah, and I could see kind of that whole group of, Texas, TCU, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, those kind of big four. I could see all four of them not even making super regionals, if I'm being honest with you. Yeah. They all kind of look mediocre at times, and then at other times they look slightly above average. But, there's not a team in there that I really would be like, okay, this is the team that I'm going to get that's going to get us to Omaha to this conference. It's kind of a weird state. It's almost like the football state, too.
Yeah. Up next, we have Conference USA. Many call it, America's Conference when the Pac-12 isn't playing.
This one was easy for me. I mean, my bold prediction 4 weeks ago was that Southern Miss is the best team in Mississippi, and they've gone out and proved me right the last 4 weeks. They've been on fire. They finally lost their winning streak last, unfortunately, but they're still 16-3 in conference. They're 33-9 overall. Best team in Mississippi. I think that they go the longest in the tournament. I think that they get a host. This was a no doubter for me. That's Southern Miss easy.
Yeah, I agree. Southern Miss is in the driver's seat a little bit too much. There's just nobody that's going to be able to catch them, and they are the best team. It's not like TCU where I think they could lose out theoretically because I think they are that suspect. Southern Miss, they aren't going to give up that lead.
I was going to say UTSA, and here was kind of my logic behind it, is I feel like there hasn't been a series that Southern Miss has really looked bad in conference, and UTSA is kind of in that striking range. They do play them, I think, in 2 weeks, the 14th, and it wouldn't surprise me because UTSA, they kind of have got the Gonzaga treatment where, a lot of teams really don't hear about them, but they have a lot of talent. They really hit the ball good. They did beat Stanford earlier in the year too as well. I know Stanford, played on a Monday after a big tournament game over Arkansas. So it'll be kind of interesting to see. But I think, Southern Miss loses that series to UTSA. They don't win the conference, but they're still going to be the best team that I want to ride, conference time. But they almost need that loss to kind of get them right quick in a series.
Yeah, I disagree. I think Southern Miss they're too far ahead. I think the only team in Conference USA that could give them a run for their money is Louisiana Tech, and they've already beat Louisiana Tech. So, yeah, I think that's the only that they beat their only obstacle. So I think they're gonna take the conference.
Fully agree, Alex. I think Louisiana Tech was the second best team in the conference, and Southern Miss took care of that. And so I don't think there's really much in the way. UTSA is a good team, Jake. Don't get me wrong. They're going to have to sweep, though, to have a chance of winning the conference. So I don't see that happening.
Yeah, that was kind of my thinking. I think it would have probably been a little bit closer if they played them at home, but having to go to Hattiesburg, I think, is a little tough. But I just didn't want to do 4 straight across, and we get on Twitter for doing it.
Pick everybody for Southern Miss. That's fair.
The field, that's what I want. It's the field.
Got to be different, huh, Jake?
Yeah. Got to show some Texas pride. Hasn't been a lot of it lately.
We get it from you every single week, but
with your Mississippi State flag.
Yeah. Oh, and I do got a Texas helmet though. It's just
okay.
Speaking of not picking across the board, the Pac-12 was a little bit more, up and down than I thought it was when I looked at the standings. So it's kind of bunched up at the top. Mark, you are, hits close to home on this one.
Yeah, I think I'm the resident Pac-12 guy, being the only West Coast person in CWS right now. So I'm a big Oregon State fan, big Beaver. I write the articles for the Beavs. They have a very difficult schedule down the stretch. They play at home against Oregon next week. They are at Arizona and then at home against UCLA. Those are the teams that are second, third, and fourth right now in the Pac-12. It's a very difficult schedule. I was leaning to Stanford winning the conference until they lost to Washington last night. So I'm going to stick with Oregon State. I think that they control their own destiny. If they go 6-3 down the stretch here, they take the 2 from Utah the next 2 days. I think that they control their own destiny. They're all right there in the driver's seat, but it's still very tough. I think if Stanford had beat Washington last night, Stanford had the easier road because Stanford plays Cal at Utah and then USC at home. Stanford has the easier road, but losing last night to Washington was a big loss for them.
Yeah, that was another thing I looked at again, whereas I pulled up all the schedules and I thought who has the easiest road, and Stanford was in my consideration. Oregon State just missed. I had UCLA winning the conference. I think they're going to, if they can catch momentum with, some down teams, they're going to ride into Corvallis and say, all right, we got 3 games to go win the conference. And that's going to be one of those games where, it might draw some extra eyes on the Pac-12. It'll be good for the conference. And we'll really see what UCLA is made of, because I don't trust them at all, and what Oregon State is made of, who we trust a lot, but we just don't trust them enough to put them on that same line with Tennessee. We'll see.
Yeah, the cool thing about that last series too, the UCLA series, is it is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. So we're gonna get to see some eyes on that Thursday night game.
Yeah.
I had Oregon. That was kind of mine that I was going to go out on a limb and say. I really liked them. I felt like, this is a little bit different because I did the Utah series with Oregon State kind of did scare me a little bit. They're going to be looking ahead. But since they lost last night, I kind of feel like they'll get right. But Oregon, I really like them just because I feel like they've been so inconsistent, but at times they've looked really, really good. The schedule kind of does set up for them down the road. And like you said, Mark, with Oregon State that they play all these tough games. So if they're taking 2 of 3 series, that's still a conference game, and they'll be behind Oregon with that. So that was kind of my thinking with it. Is I think Oregon State's going to be the best team, but losing some of these 2-3 series, whether one game on the tail end, I think that's what's really going to come back to bite the Beavs in the butt in this scenario.
Yeah, Oregon does have a fairly easy schedule coming down the stretch here. They do have to play Oregon State though, and that's this weekend or next weekend. So that'll be the series really, Tuesday, Oregon goes down there for a non-conference game to Oregon State, and Oregon play down in Eugene, and then they come back up for the 3-game series for the conference. So we'll see what happens. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. But I think
I was just saying that's gonna be my series of the week next week with Oregon State and Oregon.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go with Stanford. I think, like Noah kind of mentioned and Mark kind of mentioned, that they've got a pretty decent schedule. They're a really good team. I watched them play at the Round Rock Classic, and I was really impressed by them. And I think they've got the easiest road. I mean, losing to Washington yesterday does hurt, but I mean, it's baseball. One loss generally doesn't kill you, and you can bounce back. So I think it'll be Stanford.
Yeah, and Stanford has the tiebreaker over everybody. So they have the tiebreaker over everybody but Oregon. So the only way that they lose in a tie is to Oregon. So yeah, the tiebreaker is huge for Stanford.
All right, Mark, I got a question though. Since this is the first year we can say this, who do you have in the tournament coming out?
Yeah, our inaugural tournament. I don't know. I'm very excited. As of this moment, if I don't get a job, I am going down to Scottsdale for the inaugural tournament, so I'm super pumped for it. As far as it lines up, Oregon State and Stanford have the most pitching, which is what you need to win those conference tournaments. I think that they both have the most pitching. I think Oregon is lacking in the pitching, so I think that really hurts them in a tournament style. I think that Arizona is also lacking in front-end pitching, so I think that hurts them in the tournament style. So I think that if you're picking one, it's between Stanford and Oregon State, and Stanford having the easiest road going into it, I think that they are probably the favorite to win the first tournament.
Now, Mark, why are you attempting to get a job before the college baseball season ends? That seems kind of like cocaine behavior.
I just keep my feelers out there. I got lots of applications out there, but I don't know if I'll accept a job before that happens. I'm just putting it out there to make sure that if I do get a job, somebody's not upset that I'm trying to go down to Scottsdale for a whole week.
You got to put in your contract when you get hired.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're talking, it's only like 6 weeks away. So even if I got hired, it takes a long time to get hired in. So might have to just push that start date back until, end of June after the College World Series.
I didn't think that the hiring process at McDonald's was that lengthy, but
lots of fry cook videos to watch. Lots of HR training.
Speaking of human relations, not HR, of course, human resources, but tying it into the Vandy Whistler, the SEC.
I mean, is this even close? I mean, it's Tennessee, right? Like, nobody else is even close to winning that conference. It's Tennessee.
Yep, it is Tennessee's conference. I really wanted to see Georgia go into Baton Rouge and sweep and maybe make things a little interesting. But unfortunately, they're definitely going to be losing today. So congratulations, Alex. You are ruining my Georgia dreams. But, yeah, Tennessee.
I do what I can.
I was going to say, what about for the conference tournament? Do you want Tennessee or the field? That might be a better debate.
I'll take the field for the tournament. Yeah.
I'll take Tennessee. I still think Tennessee
Yeah,
is
for the
the best team.
I think
for
it's
the
just
SEC tournament, I'm
tough.
picking the field.
Everybody's going to give Tennessee their best shot because everybody's going to need to win that conference tournament to get in. There's some teams that are going to be on the bubble that if they win that, they're going to go from a 3 seed to a 2 seed. I think that that's going to be an important conference tournament, just like I think the Pac-12 is going to be an important conference tournament this year. I think the only one that really doesn't matter that nobody's going to care about is the Big 12.
And the ACC too, just because I feel like they've already beat each other up enough.
Yeah, but I think that could determine some high seeds for people though in the ACC also. I think that it's I'm with you. I think that they are the best conference, so I think that they have beat each other up. But nobody cares about the Big 12. Like literally nobody cares about the Big 12.
The thing about the SEC tournament is a team's motivation is a big part of that. And Tennessee's going to have everything locked up. They're going to have number 1 overall seed, everything locked up. And so, do they really care? I mean, when Paul Maneri was here at LSU, they jokingly called it the Paul Maneri Invitational, right? Because for whatever reason, LSU could be really bad going into the tournament. They do well in the SEC tournament. They cared a lot about the SEC tournament. That was something that Maneri really preached. I don't know if Vitello, is going to be the same way.
Yeah.
But I mean, especially, and when you think about, there's some good teams in the SEC that tournament, how they perform in the tournament could be the difference between them hosting or not hosting a regional. You're thinking about LSU, A&M, Vandy. There's teams that are kind of on the edge there of maybe being able to host. Good showing that in the tournament could be the decider.
I think Vandy needs that tournament more than anybody does. So that's why I don't believe that Tennessee is going to be able to compete, because Vanderbilt, again, A&M, those are the teams that are going to have to perform at the SEC tournament if they want to have a chance to be in the top 16.
Yeah, we kind of been talking about how it seems like Tim Corbin is setting up for the postseason all year, and maybe kind of in a mistake fashion, but you can never count him out, especially if the Whistler is going to be traveling to Hoover, which I'm sure he will. But yeah, I think when it gets down to a one-game, single elimination part of those tournaments, I think that's where Tennessee could fold. If the entire SEC tournament was double elimination, I would say, yeah, they'll probably win the tournament. But I don't understand how it goes. Like, I couldn't tell you where it goes, double, single, double, whatever. But when it's single, that's when they'll lose.
Yeah,
I think it's the 8 to 12 is single, and then from 8 to 4 it's double, and then when they get back to 4 it's single.
Yeah.
So weird.
It's the other thing too is like setting up your pitching. If you're Tennessee, why would you even burn your arms out when you're going to be at one no matter what? It's just not worth it for some teams to go down there and win that thing. That's the thing with all the, Pac-12, ACC, those teams are very tight at the top, and it could make a difference between whether they are a host or even a national seed. So I think that those conferences matter more.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Georgia to win in Hoover. Give me Georgia.
Georgia? I'll go LSU. That's gonna be mine.
I'm sticking Vandy. I think that they've been building towards this all year. I think Corbin has literally built his squad to win tournaments and get ready for the tournament. So I think that's what they're going for.
I actually think A&M might win the SEC tournament.
Don't say that. Don't put that out in the world.
Put it out in the world.
They've got 2 legit starters, and their bullpen has been improving. What's the Palich, the lefty on the back end of the bullpen has been really strong, and Claunch has been really clutch for them.
You're welcome.
Dylan Rock.
Yeah, Rock. I think A&M. I think Schloss gets the guys up and really gets them fired up for the series, and they win, or for the tournament. Don't
count out Nate Yeske, who's pitching coach down there. He's done a fantastic job with that staff.
Yeah,
they're much improved as the season's gone along. That's the part that scares me. Is they're almost peaking right now.
It's okay. They lost last night.
Higher.
Yeah, they got destroyed last night. That was pretty depressing.
Well, speaking of Texas A&M, it is time for our mid-major update from Jake.
So Sean didn't get my graphic in time. I guess he was too busy mourning the loss of the Hogs last night. My 3 series of the week. I'll go Cal Poly, UCSB. We've talked a lot about Cal Poly, so I really don't need to add on anything there. But UCSB actually leads the conference right now. They're up 2 games, so Poly really realistically needed to sweep.
3
but-
now because they won last night.
Yeah, as I said, I did this yesterday, so they're up 3. Poly still has Hawaii, and Hawaii is kind of that pesky team where they might sneak in and steal one. But UCSB is truly been the class of the Big West this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see them as a 3 seed. They're going to be a dangerous 3 seed. Next, I got Ball State, Central Michigan. No, we had somebody tweeted us that we hadn't talked about Central Michigan enough. They've won 18 straight.
Yeah.
They're 21-1 in the MAC. Ball State is second. They're 19-4. They really haven't lost a MAC series this entire year, and they played Oregon really, really close. But Central Michigan's going to be the class of the MAC. They're going to be the one that comes out of that tournament. My last one is Belmont and Southeast Missouri State. Southeast Missouri State is kind of shaky away from home, and this is a 1-2 series. Belmont is 9-3, while Southeast Missouri is 11-4. Southeast Missouri State has an Oklahoma State series, so that's kind of why there's a difference there. So they are going to have the same number at the end. Both still have to play Eastern Illinois, who is trending down really, really fast. They've lost 6 straight, and they went from first to third. So kind of be on the lookout, for maybe one of those teams to, lose them just because they've been streaking down so fast. My 3 teams to watch, these are going to be 3 teams that kind of get into your regional where you're not going to know too much about them. Wright State. Then we got Columbia/Penn. It'll be really interesting to see who kind of comes out of that Columbia-Penn series because both of them are really hot. A little bit about the Ivy. They only do 4-team conferences, single elimination, and that's who's going to decide the bid. And then lastly, I really wish I would have waited until this morning to do this one, but UNLV. They lost 20-3 last night against Air Force. I know Air Force kind of has, a high altitude stadium, and they really bang the ball around. But they are in first in the Mountain West, and there could be a team that, kind of sneaks out there, where you always forget about that West Coast, Best Coast baseball. So kind of look for them to make some noise in a regional come, tournament time.
Air Force has been on fire lately, though. They've been playing really good baseball. So that loss is shocking, the numbers, but not the loss in general to Air Force. They've been very good lately.
Yeah, they played Texas really, really good a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Now, Jake, I watched Wright State just the other day. I believe it was on Sunday, last game of the week ago, against the University of Chicago, Illinois. Beautiful stadium that they have in Chicago, Illinois. Don't know what it's called, but nice backdrop. Wright State is kind of a fun team to watch. They're kind of like Tennessee-esque, where you can't ever count them out, and then they can kind of pound the ball a little bit.
Yeah, I really like them. It's kind of ironic because Tennessee walked them off last year in the tournament, but they're kind of one of those teams like Campbell, Central Michigan, where they just always turn it off tournament time, and you see them in a regional. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of those 3 teams down the stretch, kind of how their experience of playing in the tournament, especially Wright, how it kind of plays in.
Yeah, they always get stuck with a pretty good team. I think that, just off the top of the head, they played Louisville when they had like Brendan McKay, and then played Tennessee with, last year. And then I know they played Vanderbilt, probably a year where they played the national championship. Yeah, they always get kind of a tough draw. It'd be nice to see them maybe get like a weaker. And maybe this year.
They are 19-19 this year, so kind of.
I saw they were hovering around 500.
But they're hot. They're 12-4 in conference play. They are kind of pulling away. They're at the end, so it'll be really interesting. If they are hot because they're playing kind of subpar competition, or if they're hot because they're hot.
Now, Jake, when it comes to these mid-majors, do you wish that the automatic bid went to the regular season regular season champion, or are you proud of you got to win the conference tournament to get in?
I like the conference tournament because I think it should be the hottest team that makes the tournament. Especially somebody like if Texas was in a mid-major, you wouldn't want somebody who was the best at the beginning and then kind of struggled down the stretch to make it. You truly do want the hottest team in there. And when you go into that conference tournament, that is the hottest team. It's not necessarily the best team, but it's the hottest team.
All right. Obviously, our mid-major update always feeds right into the Q&A. Yes, the Q&A. Do we have any fans on the YouTube?
So we got Mario.
Thank you, Mario. I'm glad you're listening to our show. Always our biggest fan, Mario. We do miss the Twitter Spaces. We need to bring those back. Definitely could be great after a long day at Hoover, or other conference tournament sites just pop up and, hey, Arkansas looked pretty bad today. and see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm missing all my updates from Tennessee Tech and all these obscure schools that are going to go out there and win some conferences this weekend. So miss you, Mario.
Yeah, Mario used to update us on who Missouri was playing at the beginning of That'll be a pretty good series. I guess the 3 people who are there will let us know.
And he used to have the hot takes too.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And they were always right.
Yep. He was correct about Mississippi State being wildly overrated. So credit to Mario.
He also did pick LSU to go undefeated though, so that didn't really work out.
Well, they are undefeated in games that they've won.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We did have 2 questions. If the NCAA tournament started today, are you taking Tennessee or the field?
I'm going to take the field. Typically, number 1 seeds have not done well. The last number 1 seed to win was in 1999 Miami. So I'm going to take the field.
Must have been a pretty weak field that year if Miami won. But yeah, when I saw that question pop up, it was tough to think about just because is Tennessee the favorite? Yeah, but it's just so crazy this year that there's probably going to be some weaker teams sneak into Omaha. I don't know. It's so tough. Just a couple weeks ago, I was thinking, Tennessee, they don't really feel like a championship winning team, even though they are really, really good. They just don't really have that edge almost. But I think that's just because we haven't seen them lose a lot of games. So I don't know. But I'll take the field, but it's close. I don't know who in the field I'm really confident in.
I was going to take the field too. I just think there's so much statistics that back up how improbable it is that Tennessee's going to go on a run. And then, like you said, they really haven't got cold very often this season, if at all. So, you can blink and be out of the tournament in 2 days. I don't expect that to happen. I still expect them to be in Omaha. It wouldn't surprise me if they do win the championship, but just based off statistics alone, I think, you have to take the field.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, you got to take the field. Tennessee's a really good team. They're a great team. They also play in a smaller ballpark, and then you get to, the Chuck now. Balls don't quite fly out of the Chuck like they do, in Lindsey Nelson. So,
yeah,
and they do have good pitching, but there's just too many other factors that could go in play to them losing.
Teams that rely on the big ball, the big fly, don't typically do well down there. So if you have pitching, which Tennessee does, they have the pitching. I don't know. I still go field. It's almost even at this point with how well Tennessee's playing, but they haven't had to overcome any adversity. Their biggest adversity was the back-to-back losses in a wood-bat game to Tennessee Tech and then a loss to Alabama. Come on. That's not adversity, really. So we'll see what happens.
Well, Tony V did get suspended for 4 games.
Then he raised all that money for charity outside giving chest bumps, which was really awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was really cool.
And then we have one who has the weirder resume, South Carolina or Duke?
I think the weirder resume is South Carolina. Now, Duke's not going to make the tournament. They're sub 500 team. They're sub 500 in conference. South Carolina is now 21-20. And the thing is, they are so bad they are 3-10 on the road. I don't know if you guys are keeping track of that. 3-10 on the road. They are horrible on the road. But South Carolina being over 500 now, and they've put themselves in a position to be middle of the pack there in the SEC. I think that's the weirder one for me is South Carolina.
Yeah, and they basically give away Friday too. So as AJ's mentioned numerous times,
they won last night though, right? 2-1.
They did win last night.
Yeah.
That's why AJ's not here. He's too busy blacked out from last night's big win.
Celebration.
Yeah, I agree. South Carolina is just a little bit too weird of a team. A&M was kind of in that conversation, and now you could argue that they've gotten even weirder because I don't think anybody really believes that A&M is going to hold up as strong as they are, right now. But maybe some people do here. But South Carolina is definitely the weirder team between those two. I think Duke is just a bad team.
Yeah, it's just I haven't really been following Duke at all, just because I feel like they're almost the basement. But South Carolina is a very, very weird team to me, just because they've been so high and then they've also been really low. So definitely them. Duke's just bad. It's not weird to be bad.
Yeah, being bad isn't. It's not liking The Office is not a personality trait. Being bad's not interesting for Duke.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's nothing cool about it. I mean, there's a lot of teams that can be bad. I mean, Penn State's bad at baseball. I mean, you don't hear us talking about them.
Yeah, Boston College is bad. We're not like, ooh, they're weird. They're interesting.
Okay, they are weird. They wear gold socks. Who wears gold stirrups? That's weird.
I did see one other question sent to the Weekend Rotation from Fun Killer Steve, good friend of the program there. He said, number 2, number 3, and number 4 all lost yesterday. So meaning, Oregon State, Arkansas, and Miami all lost. Who has the hardest road down the stretch? And for me, Oregon State has the toughest road among those 3 teams. Oregon State has to play, like I said, at home against Oregon, at Arizona, at home against UCLA, and they still have 2 more against Utah here. I think that they have the toughest road to win the conference and stay in the top 5. I think Oregon State has the toughest road.
Yeah, when I think about that question, I think of if they lose again, who's going to be the worst off from it? And I think it is Oregon State. If they lose to Utah, they do have that tough stretch. But then I do have to give a shout out to Miami because if they lose games, they'll realize that they are frauds. So,
yeah, I was going to say Arkansas. That was going to be mine because I just feel like, maybe it's their fans just overreacting every time they lose. I just don't feel like they've been so inconsistent this entire year with everything. And, when you can even beat Ole Miss this year, that's going to be raising really, really big red flags. They play Vandy down the stretch. They play Bama down the stretch, who's been much, much improved. So I think, in the grand scheme of things, Oregon State's going to lose more games than Arkansas just because they play a tougher schedule. But in terms of red flags, I'm really not high on Arkansas. I'm selling on Arkansas right now, if I'm being honest. Sorry, Sean. Maybe that's why he doesn't do the graphics, because he I crap on Arkansas too much.
Your Arkansas slander.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Jake. I think Arkansas has got the tougher road. I mean, they seem to be cooling a little bit right now. That loss to Ole Miss, but the SEC. I mean, there's in SEC West in particular. There's such a logjam of in the middle. I mean, there's Arkansas has been kind of running away with the SEC West, but then right behind them you got Auburn, LSU, A&M, and they've got some tough draws. Going to Vandy, and I don't know. I think they've got the tougher draw, and then Arkansas's RPI is in a really bad spot. I mean, I think they're like around 20 in the RPI, and if they start losing some series and some games to some lower tier teams, their RPI could suffer a lot. So because they didn't play a real tough out of conference schedule, and so it's coming back to bite them in the RPI department.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean Oregon State is top 5 RPI right now, and they have 3 super hard opponents coming up, so their RPI is not going to drop that much even with losses.
Arkansas's at 25, Alex.
25, yeah.
Yeah.
They want to be a top 8 national seed with an RPI of 25. I mean, they need to win a bunch of series.
Yeah, they cannot lose that Vanderbilt series. They can't. They have to win that series if they want to be a national seed. They have to win that series.
And then we did have a question from Mario too, as well.
Do we think LSU is going to host a regional? I do believe that LSU will host a regional. I think that LSU puts it together. I think that they do well in the conference tournament. I think that they get, 14, 15, 16. I think that they do get a host. Also, it's just great to be hosting in Baton Rouge, so I think the conference looks at that as well. Good teams that are hot at the end of the season and getting a host in a cool location. I think what's going to happen is that they're going to give Oregon State like a 3 seed, and then they're going to put LSU opposite them at 14 just to make that rivalry happen.
Yeah, right now I think it's hard to imagine a world where LSU is a 2 seed with this roster that they have and how good they were at the beginning of the year. They're kind of a little bit up and down now, but I think they're kind of on the upswing. Obviously, they're taking at least 2 of 3 from Georgia, probably sweeping. Not trying to jinx that at all. And
yeah, not at all.
So, yeah, I think LSU is going to be in that in that conversation. You'll see some teams fall out that maybe are a little bit overrated right now, kind of the Miamis of the world, maybe. But I think LSU will have a regional, definitely not a super regional.
I'm gonna say no. I think they're gonna be very, very dangerous too. I just think that they've been too wildly inconsistent with their roster, just to kind of put them in a regional. And the SEC West is such a tough schedule too, that you could go cold on a weekend and get swept. And that's not a knock on LSU, Alex. I just think there's too many decent teams kind of in that 10 to 30 range for LSU to host a regional this year.
I mean, if you look at LSU's got 11 wins in conference now. Kind of the cutoff from what we've seen in past years for SEC teams hosting a regional is 17 wins. So if they can go in their last 12, so before this weekend they had 10 SEC wins. So if they can go 7-5 in their last 12 SEC games, I think they host a regional. I mean, and if they do something a little unexpected where maybe they win every series to the end, they still have an outside shot at a top 8 seed. I mean, it would take something unexpected, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. They've got this series against Georgia, then they host Ole Miss next week, so that'll be another opportunity for some good wins, and then they got to go to Alabama and then to Vandy, and so those will be kind of tough series. Alabama is, they're much better than people expected, and Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt. I mean, it's a Tim Corbin coach team. It's the last series of the season, so that'll be tough. But I think LSU gets to 17 wins and hosts.
I think if they go 8-4 down the stretch, Alex, I think you're right. I think they can lose one series as long as they go and win every other series. I think 8-4 is your key. I don't know if 7-5 gets you there, but I think 8-4 is where you have to be.
And I would rather have LSU host a regional too than Vanderbilt host a regional, because I think that might be the most overrated stadium. That is a terrible stadium. It's so small.
That's nightmare scenarios if Vanderbilt sweeps Arkansas and LSU to end their season.
Ugh.
Oh my God! And then somebody's like, "Oh, let's put them in."
I know, we need to send them to Oregon. Oregon's where we got to, or Gonzaga, have a snow game.
There you go.
I'm good. Send them up to Spokane. Get rid of them. I don't want to hear that, dude. If he comes to Corvallis, I'm gonna be so pissed.
But no one wants to see that ugly V logo either.
Oh, it's terrible. And they're all black uniforms.
Mark, if Vanderbilt is sent to Corvallis and the Whistler is there, can we get a commitment from you that you will interview him or have him on the Weekend Rotation?
I will absolutely try to get a hold of him. It might be with my hands around his throat, but I'll try to get a hold of him.
just he needs his fingers right to make the whistle, so just tape his hands together. He can't.
I'll just go shake his hand really hard and break his fingers. But yes, all jokes aside, yeah. If Vanderbilt goes there, I'm definitely going to try to talk to some of the fans, and he'll be one of them.
I will make the same commitment if Vanderbilt plays in Omaha, because God knows the Whistler will be here. I will track him. I've seen him several times, and like he said, you can follow his trail of grease that he drips from him, and there he is. But yeah,
we need to get Tennessee Noah to interview him in Hoover. That's what we really need.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I will just make that 14-hour trip and then.
No, the other Noah.
Oh yes, that one. Yeah.
Not your alter Tennessee ego.
Yeah. Hold on, Alex. You haven't made us any money yet.
Unfortunately, didn't get to get the betting segment prepared, so we're have to. I have failed you all. I will make it up for it next week. We'll make some money next weekend.
We are.
I want a parlay. That's what I want next week, is a parlay.
All right, we'll get you a parlay.
Alex's can't lose parlay.
I thought I went 7-3 last week. I'm gonna have to look at that. I didn't know I lost 4 games. That sucks.
That's okay. You're still behind me, so.
I know. I thought
I get to it too much.
I thought I caught up on you.
And then AJ. So AJ's probably gonna pick really good this week since he's out.
Yeah, AJ's been on that 5-5 train.
we got Florida State TCU.
Yeah,
This one aged like milk.
Yeah,
You just
Florida
wanted to see
State
the Horn Frog. I know. It's all right.
Yeah.
really good to start this one off. I think Parker Messick is being underrated, if that's even possible for him. He's a dude, and Florida State has pitching. If that offense is going to score like they did against TCU, that's a dangerous team right there, and that's a very dangerous 2 seed.
Yeah, and I mean, you almost have to feel like, TCU being, top of the Big 12, that they should be able to hang with, middle of the road ACC team. I know we've talked all year about how Florida State is tough to beat on a Friday night, so I do kind of still think TCU can win the next 2 and kind of go in, but yeah, this one's kind of aging a little poorly. I think, this is one of those things where you see the gap between the ACC, SEC, and then the Big 12 is kind of shown for us out here.
Yeah, this was kind of a fun matchup of 2 teams that I don't trust at all. So it was nice to see them figure out who I trust less than the other. And it was easy for me. I don't trust TCU at all. And then Florida State wouldn't want 10-0, even though at one point Florida State did tweet out that they were up 14-0, and then they just didn't delete the tweet. So
They're hoping Elon brings out that edit button. But yeah, I just think Florida State's the better team. I just think they're going to beat them.
what? I was thinking I picked Oklahoma State.
I thought Texas at home was going to be able to win this series. I thought when they tied that game up last night that they were definitely just going to go ahead and go win that game, and then they ended up losing it. I've said it all year. I don't buy into Oklahoma State. I don't understand why the hype is so high on them. They're not. I don't think any Big 12 team right now is a top 8 team, but whatever. I think Texas still wins the series.
Did I make a mistake, Noah?
If this graphic is under protest, I pick Oklahoma State.
Switching up.
Oklahoma State was my pick, but you know what? If Texas wins the series, I say we keep it.
Noah picks whoever wins.
I just couldn't put much stock in Texas. I think that they were the better team, but they've just consistently underperformed this entire year. And I really didn't see anything to change with Oklahoma State coming to town this week. I think this is going to be one of those series where on Sunday when they lose the series, they're going to kick themselves saying we should have won this, because they have more talent. I would take them in a 1-game series, but they've just disappointed so many times this year that they really are hard to bet on.
Yeah, they're very inconsistent, but I just thought at home, at Dish Falk, that would kind of be the deciding factor.
Yeah, they sold it out for all 3 games, I think, about 2-3 weeks ago. So this was, a circle the calendar type game for them, and just kind of get railroaded off. It's going to be a tough series to come back from.
And the only way that they can win the Big 12 really is to win the next 2 games in this series. Otherwise, they're basically out of the Big 12 championship for the regular season.
Crazier things have happened. I remember last year, I think TCU lost to someone obscure that they shouldn't have, and Texas swept to win it. So I still wouldn't count them out of the Big 12 race because they still have Kansas and West Virginia. And the Big 12 is so inconsistent. There's no one to really bet on that, crazier things have happened. So I wouldn't put it past them, this one.
When I picked Oklahoma State, unlike what the fake news media is saying I picked, I was like, oh, Oklahoma State's at home, they'll win. And then I turned the game on, and I see this little patch of the crowd, like they weren't showing the whole stadium. I was like, wow, there are a lot of Texas fans in Bricktown or wherever they play. And wow, okay. And then all of a sudden I realized that it's in Austin. So I'm actually going to double down on my Oklahoma State pick. Road Warriors.
The Road Warriors.
This is the series of the weekend, really. I mean, these are the 2 most fun teams to watch in the ACC, I think. Georgia Tech. I mean, Virginia Tech and Virginia is a great series also, but this one's been a lot of fun. I was really surprised to see this be a 3-1 score last night. I thought that, this would go and break open after the starting pitching got out for both ball clubs, and it didn't. It was really good game. I still think Miami wins the next 2.
Yeah, Miami's a fraud team, and everybody knows it. I have not picked Miami for several weeks, maybe ever. I was really, really excited when I turned this one on and saw Georgia Tech had a lead, and then they won the game. So go Jackets. Every time I pick Georgia Tech, they win. So if there are any Georgia Tech fans out there, you can Venmo me, and I'll make it happen.
I just always thought, good starting pitching, beats hot bats. And Georgia Tech starting pitching has just been so subpar, despite, how they bang the ball around the yard. That was really the difference for me, was just going to be the pitching. But yeah, that 3-1 was very, very surprising. I wouldn't be surprised if we see double digits in the next, 2 games after this one. So, Alex, I know you didn't do your gambling picks, but bet the over in this series.
Yeah, I mean, I know I picked Miami to win the ACC, but I just felt like Georgia Tech was the hotter team coming in. I'm a big fan of Kevin Parada, and I just think that they're the hotter team right now.
Georgia Tech did need this series more than Miami, that's for sure.
Oh, I love that hokey logo. I always regret not picking them when it pops up. And then I actually got this pick in late, DM'd it to I was looking at my picks like, I don't remember picking this one. Why did we let Jake pick the games and then not pick this one? And then I realized he did, and I just skipped over it. So then I went and I said I was a class act, just like I did with Mississippi State Ole Miss. I took the team who lost the first game. So that's the only reason I'm on Virginia. If they lose the next 2 games, it shouldn't even count against me, just like that Texas one.
Yeah, I thought Virginia at home. I thought maybe this is their series where they turn it back around. They still can. They can win the next 2, but Virginia Tech looks good. They keep coming out. They keep balling. I don't see them really slowing down now. I'm a little disappointed in my pick with Virginia. I thought Virginia would get right this weekend, but hopefully they come out and win today and then make a rubber match game on Sunday.
Yeah, they got Hackenberg going for Virginia Tech. It's really hard to pick against him. For me, the kind of difference was the traditions. You have the hammer slam after a home run, and then you have, helmets falling off when they fly out to left field. So that was kind of my big difference here. I know Steven's probably not going to like that comment, but the state of Virginia is the center of college baseball this year, and Virginia Tech is going to be your state champions. They're going to win one of the next 2, and they're going to go in and roll into ACC play. And don't be surprised if they're hosting a regional.
I don't know that I'll subscribe to the Virginia is the center of college baseball, but I think Georgia might give you a run for your money there with Georgia Southern and Mercer and Georgia. But I had to go with for this one, it felt like a coin flip series. It could easily go either way. And so I just went with the cooler logo.
When in doubt, cooler logo. Love it.
That's right.
Oh, wait, Alex, you were supposed to change this.
You said if I find a Mike the Tiger one, I couldn't find a Mike the Tiger one. Not one that would work anyway.
I have lost every LSU pick so far, so I was really happy that they finally won last night. Every time I pick LSU or pick against them, I have lost every single series this year in the LSU picks, so I'm hoping they can hang on. Come on, Alex.
Yeah, obviously I love my Georgia Bulldogs. They are my team. I actually disrespected them a lot at the beginning of the year. But, yeah, it would have been nice if they looked a little bit more competitive. Excited to see what Cannon can do today for them. I think LSU can show a little bit of that inconsistency that, has kind of plagued them a little bit. Give me the Dogs still. I'm always a proud Bulldog.
These were 2 teams that, both lost at home to A&M, so there really wasn't, kind of a tiebreaker there for them. The difference for me, though, is I felt like Georgia kind of had more to gain in this series than LSU, because I feel like LSU, they're kind of in the West logjam, and Georgia, kind of needs to get right quick. They're kind of fading really fast. I wouldn't say fading hard, though, but that was kind of the difference for me, is I felt like Georgia kind of needed this series more than LSU. But like I told Alex, I did want to change it if you could find the Mike the Tiger pick.
I was not able to find a Mike the Tiger logo for you. Not one that I could use on the here anyway.
Maybe just a Fred's logo next time we pick LSU.
Maybe a what?
A Fred's logo.
Oh. Yeah, shout out Fred's. There was a big party there last night. There will be again tonight. But yeah, I mean LSU. I think I actually disagree with you, Jake. I think LSU needs this series a lot more than Georgia does. Especially if they want to host, you got to win the series. Got to get a good, Georgia's top 5 RPI. Need a good series win here. I don't think LSU wins today against Cannon as much as Noah's trying to jinx that. But I do think they win on Sunday and take
They
the
got the
series.
lefty going. Georgia got the lefty on Sunday too.
Do have their lefty, but he's not exactly a power lefty. I mean, he's got an ERA around 5. I mean, Georgia's pitching staff, I don't know if you guys know this, but Georgia's pitching staff has an ERA over 7 in conference play. Like that's I mean, I know Jonathan Cannon's great. They have a legit closer who's got 8 saves. I can't remember his name, but he's got 8 saves on the year. But that pitching staff is pretty suspect, and there's some big bats in this lineup as we saw last night.
They have 0 middle relief. 0.
Yeah. So if they can go Cannon to their closer, they'll be fine tonight.
I thought more people were going to be on A&M.
No, I've been off the A&M. I still think that Vanderbilt is the team that we saw last night. That win is how I think that they're trying to play for the rest of the season. Like I said, they have Arkansas and LSU left, and they could make a statement down the stretch. I really hope they don't, because I don't want to see them host. But I think that Vanderbilt can do it. They have the talent to be able to do that down the stretch. So I thought this was an easy pick against A&M. A&M coming in a little bit over their skis right now. Sorry, Jake.
No, I would say that they almost did kind of peak a little bit too early, and I just picked against them because it seems like every time I think A&M's going to win, they go out and lose. So when I think they lose, they're going to win. So kind of a reverse psychology there. I do want to say how much I hate that Vanderbilt field. I know I mentioned it earlier. But this, it's going to be one of those series that I think you look back on where, whoever wins the series is going to have that tiebreaker and a regional host, because I feel like they are kind of in that log jam in the SEC and the host. The difference for me, though, was I think the Sunday game. I know A&M's bullpen has kind of found itself a lot recently, but I still just can't trust our bullpen. I feel like, the team that lost to Penn and Iowa and Washington State's going to shine through more than the team that beat LSU, Georgia, and Arkansas. So that was kind of the difference for me, is I feel like, the shine's going to wear off a little bit.
Yeah, when I think about these two teams, I think Vandy's probably playing lower than where they should be, and A&M is flying too close to the sun. And even this whole weekend, I was looking at all the games, and I think it's time to get things back on course where they should be. And, everything's going to kind of even out, and I think that this one's kind of the evening out game of the week where, A&M might get swept. Just kind of a ball don't lie situation.
Well, they can't get swept 31.
Yeah, they can't. They already won one.
They won already? Well,
they're
won Thursday night.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize I thought it started yesterday. Well, then, all right. Congratulations, Vanderbilt.
I guess you're pre-gaming for Arbor Day a little too hard.
Yeah, I think A&M is just a really hot team right now. I think Schloss has really got them going. And, you mentioned Nate Yeski's got that pitching staff right. And I just think they're too hot right now. Pull a little bit of Mugatu. He's too hot right now.
So hot right now. That Hansel.
A couple logos we don't see on here too often.
Yeah, this was kind of a trick series here. I thought Georgia Southern was a little overrated, and then I looked at both these squads a lot, and I think I killed myself with analysis. I just didn't love what I was seeing from Coastal in their games, especially on the road. And then they go down there and they beat Georgia Southern last night, who is a lot of people's top 25. Not my personal top 25, of course. And so I took Georgia Southern.
Yeah, that was kind of the difference for me. I really wanted to talk myself into the Coastal pick, but they were just too inconsistent, I think, when I picked them against Texas State a week back. So that was kind of the difference for me, is I felt like Georgia Southern, trying to stay above Texas State, they needed to kind of win everything out the stretch just to kind of stay out in front and, keep up with them. And, they do have regional host aspirations. And this isn't the Coastal team that won the national championship by any stretch of the imagination. I know that it kind of looks a little bad now because they lost, but I still kind of expect Georgia Southern, kind of flex here at the end and, win the next two.
Yeah, I haven't trusted Georgia Southern at all, even though they have that, they're a good team according to the record and everything. But it feels like they're kind of in a place right now where if the season ended today, they might be hosting a regional, and I just can't picture them hosting a regional. So I should have picked against them, but I thought, Coastal kind of one of those teams that hasn't been talked about enough. Maybe they'll win this one, but 0-1 so far. So who even knows with these teams? I don't trust Georgia Southern. If they host a regional and they get like a strong 2 seed, it's gonna be really hard to not pick like a Vanderbilt if they're a 2 seed in Georgia Southern's regional. It's gonna be really hard to say, yeah, Georgia Southern's belongs here.
Georgia Tech at Georgia Southern in that regional would be really hard.
They're gonna get an SEC or ACC team that's just gonna have played a lot more quality teams than Georgia Southern. Same thing with Texas State. I think they're going to get either Texas or Texas A&M or, all those, logjam Texas schools. They're going to be another one where it's going to be tough to pick them to come out.
Yeah, they could get a terrible 3 seed like Notre Dame.
I mean, Baseball America, in their latest regional projections, they put, Texas as the 1 and then LSU and Texas State as the 2 and 3 seed. That would be a murderer's row of a regional.
Yeah, Baseball America continues to just put random things down on pieces of paper sometimes.
But as far as this game goes, as much as it hurts me to see anything in relation to Coastal Carolina, that memory is still seared in my brain. I just felt like I feel like the more Coastal wins, the more I'll feel better about us have lost to them, even though that was years ago and they went on to win the national championship that season. It just makes me feel better to see them win.
Boy, we all started off 0-1 here, fellas.
What happened, Mark?
Cooper on the mound. He literally went 6 perfect innings and gave up 3 hits, and really, one of them probably shouldn't have been a hit. It probably should have been a ground ball double play, and it turns into a double because, unfortunately, Dukart missed it at third and then went straight down the line and played in a big ballpark. Beavers hit 3 or 4 balls off the wall that would have been out in any college stadium, but the 420 to center and 350 down the lines was a little too big down there in that minor league ballpark, and it was crazy. But I think the Beavs bounced back today. Kamat's on the mound. I think that they're fine, and then they got Jake Finnings going on Sunday. Good to see him back. I think that they still can win this series pretty easily.
Yeah, don't really know what happened yesterday with Oregon State. Maybe it's that Pac-12, which is so wildly deep. Utah, welcome to the tournament. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, he's the Jerpy is the Jacob deGrom of college baseball. They're never going to win with him, and that's fine.
They just don't score when he's on the mound. It's just crazy. I know you're facing everybody else's ace also on Friday night, but, man, you got to start putting up some runs for a guy that's ERA is 2.08, and he's got a whip of under 0.76. Like, come on, guys. He's not even letting people on base. He's now had 11 perfect innings in the last 2 outings, and we can't help him out. It's ridiculous. Over 100. He's got 112 strikeouts now. It's just like, God, guys, can we help him out a little bit?
Now, Mark, I am curious about something. You said he pitched 6 perfect innings, but had 3 hits. I'm not sure how that works.
He threw 6 perfect innings, and then in the 7th inning, he gave up 3 hits only. 3 hits, 2 runs, and that was all the hits that Utah got the whole game, too. They got 3 hits and 2 runs, and that was it. They didn't even get a walk. They had literally 3 base runners, and they won the game 2-1.
Yeah, I was telling Alex in the pre-show that I wish I kind of had the balls to pull the trigger on this one with Utah. I did kind of feel like this was a trap series with Oregon State just because, they're playing so early. They're playing in, minor league ballpark. They got the schedule kind of going down the road, that this was a series that I was really, really worried about from them. But I do kind of think they get right. Losing on Friday is a lot different than losing on Saturday. So I do kind of still like them in the next 2 games. This one was easy.
Yeah,
it was, but they were giving a little. Auburn was trying to fight last night. I really liked what I saw from Auburn. I've been high on Auburn all year. I've been talking them up since the start of the year, and we got them all in the top 25 now. But Tennessee's too much. Like, they're just the class of the SEC this year, and they just,
You did see the final score of that one, right, Mark?
Huh?
You did see the final score of last night, right?
I did. I was laughing so hard. I was talking about it, pre-show. I was like, yeah, it was 4-2, and then they went up, and it was like 9-4. I'm like, okay. So I switched over, started watching some Pac-12 baseball again, and then I looked back, I'm like, 17. Okay. That got a little out of hand there. So, but yeah, I think that Tennessee wins this one pretty easily.
Yeah, they looked pretty loose too. Even when they were down, Tony V still had the guys loose. Like, he was chasing after some foul balls. Even when they were down, they're so hot right now. I think they're probably one of the hottest teams in college baseball ever. And I know that that's kind of a stretch right now to think about because we've never had, the best teams ever win it. But I don't think they win it all, but there's just not a series that I pick anybody over Tennessee in. This is probably the easiest one where we've had our stats.
Yeah, Tennessee, I just can't pick them to lose a series. But for 7 innings, they're really like 2 innings because Auburn took the lead on a 3-run homer, but they were hanging around. And, you thought, hey, maybe Auburn can actually sneak a game, maybe 2. And then Tennessee decided to start playing. So, yeah, you can never, ever, ever think, yeah, we're going to beat Tennessee today. No, you're not.
If they use metal bats, everybody else is in trouble. I think that's the only thing that's stopping them is wood bats.
And Jeffrey Macias, third base umpire.
Yeah,
Maybe
Tennessee's just too good.
Greg Street in a regional, maybe.
Maybe you can get Angel Hernandez to come down and umpire one of their games.
Duh.
Joe West.
Joe West, yeah.
Tennessee's lost 4 games since June, and 2 of them have been called by the same umpire.
Yeah.
Look out.
Interesting.
And one of them was in Houston, too, where they should have beat Texas. They kind of read themselves out of innings a lot. I remember, Alex, you were there for that one. I felt like they were the better team that day.
Yeah, for sure they were. But, that's how it goes.
That's baseball.
Jake, did you just pick Clemson because you're hoping that Clemson is back? Because they're not. It's definitely Louisville.
No, I was telling Alex this. I read a D1 baseball article where they were talking about how Clemson's back, and I was like, oh, I really like them. They're hot. They have a couple of conference wins. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, it's D1 baseball, and they don't watch baseball. And it's Clemson who, when they play anybody good, they lose.
Surprised you were to a bunch of guys that don't watch baseball. No, this is easy. This is Louisville. Louisville's a better team. Louisville's got better staff. Louisville's been hitting the ball better. I know early on in the season it was probably flip-flopped, but I said even back then, what it was 7 weeks ago on the podcast, and I said Clemson's a fraud. And I feel pretty good about that right now. They're still not there. They're not back. They're not good. They're not trying to pull the Miami this year and being back and being good. So they're bad.
Yeah, they're not trying to pull the Miami of this year. Miami is bad. So, but yeah, the Cardinals are just significantly better than Clemson. Clemson is kind of their we're done series. So if they lose this one, okay, goodbye. I'm sure AJ wouldn't be crying himself to sleep about that one, but I guess he slept through today's show, so maybe he is.
He's mourning the loss. He's a big Clemson fan.
that 2-1 win last night for South Carolina had him all riled up. He stayed up all night.
Yeah, this was going to be one of those ones that I wish I would have, paid a little bit more attention to Clemson and maybe watched some of the tape. I feel like I never pick Louisville right. I feel like they're one of those teams where I always get it wrong. So I just need to do the Mitzi and stop overthinking it and fade myself.
But yeah, I'm with Mark. I just don't think Clemson's a very good team. So I just think, it's Louisville it is.
Oh, man, I feel like I came off really negative this show, just like picking on some teams. But I think Notre Dame always deserves it. So they can go straight to where they need to go, which is the bottom of the ACC.
Well, I was just saying they're not going to hell because they're Catholics.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, they believe in God, so they're wrong already. But anyway.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Uh-oh. Be careful here.
I know. And Noah's picking them to win the ACC, so I don't know what he got into. He got some catnip or something last night.
It's the Midwest, man. He's too high up. He's got Southern bias.
Dude, it's how close you are to South Bend, Indiana.
Yeah. It's like a radius.
Poisons the mind.
I watch NBC all day just hoping to catch Notre Dame football.
Tony Dungy, big Tony Dungy fan.
No, Drew Brees. That's who you want to watch.
I hate Notre Dame football so much. They're more biased than like a home team's radio station. They're supposed to be a national news network. They're terrible.
Yeah, I think that's probably why I hate Notre Dame so much, is because their football program. But you know, it could trickle into baseball too.
I hate their baseball program. They wear green pants. They wear gold helmets. Their stadium doesn't have backs. They wussied out on that Virginia Tech series. I would say, sorry to the Notre Dame fans, but they don't have any fans. They don't show up to the games.
They might be the ACC Vanderbilt.
Yeah, that would be a good assessment. Them or Duke. I feel like Duke's another one.
The Vanderbilt actually wins championships.
I was going to say, Duke's not good enough.
Duke's not good enough.
All right.
Well, folks, another good show, and we'll see everybody next week.
Hopefully, AJ's going to be back next week.
I got an hour and a half till the Beavers play. This is just weird territory for me. This 10 a.m. crap with the mornings here. I don't know. I mean, I know it's afternoon for you guys, but 10 a.m. Whew.
I'm gonna go home, and then I'm gonna go home for a little bit. I'm gonna come back and go to a crawfish. I got some friends that are tailgating for Crawfish Bowl.
Alex,
so yes, Mario, I will be at the box.
God,
I will be at the box.
Please find Alex.
Yes.
Gig him.
If you're gonna be at the game, Mario, come. I'll be walking around the stadium. I got super special press pass. Makes us like official or something. And
I saw
I'll be walking around
there too. That's
full.
That? I said the weekend rotation on there too. So we're full.
Yeah.
No credentials.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll see you later, Mario.
Yes.
He'll be in
section 106. All right. I'll come say hey.
How many games are they playing today?
Oh man.
See y'all
All
next
right.
week.
Well, we'll see y'all later.